Coming up on today's edition of Women and Money, the shit we don't talk about, is our guest, Aleta Saunders.
We are happy to have Aleta with us today. She's an associate broker at PalmerHouse Properties in Atlanta, Georgia. But not only that, Aleta is also a model. You have to see some of her photos.
They are amazing. And today we're going to focus on women and real estate.
More women than ever are making real estate purchases on their own.
Yeah, women have come a long way in owning their own property and investing in real estate.
This topic will be so interesting as Aleta shares her wisdom and experience in real estate over 35 years. It will be beneficial for women who are interested in purchasing real estate or those who are already in the market.
Let's get started.
Gloria Steinem once said, "We will never solve the feminization of power until we solve the masculinity of wealth." Barbara Provost and Maggie Nielsen are the team at Purse Strings that will help you navigate the ins and outs of financial independence so that you can be financially fearless. This is Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about.
Aleta, we are so glad that you're joining us for our podcast on Women in Money, the shit we don't talk about, because we're going to start talking about it today. You know, as we were talking and I read from your bio, something that I thought was really, really powerful. And you wrote that you were raised by two very strong women, your mother and your grandmother. And you said your grandmother bought and paid for two houses on a servant's salary.
That is correct.
Yeah. And you said that this helped you recognize a woman's capable of achieving great things, and support and guidance are two words that you used, and that your passion for real estate stems from this. And it's why you're really adamant about serving and supporting and protecting women in one of the most important investments they will make in a lifetime. That whole thing just almost gives me chills. It's very powerful. And I was hoping you could kind of expand on that story a little bit for our listeners today.
Sure, I would love to. So I was raised pretty much in a household of two women. My father and my mother divorced when I was about 4 years old. And so even though he was still in my life, you know, pretty much all the decisions and everything were made by my mother. Mm-hmm. And the first house that we lived in, I thought we were rich. I thought we were rich. We lived in a 16-room house.
16?
Yep.
Wow, that's a big house.
It was a 16-room house. Well, I guess at the time that my grandmother bought it, my mother and her husband were, I don't know particularly when she bought it because obviously I was very young, mm-hmm. but I know I was in that house from the time that I was born. And the house was 16 rooms, but the first floor it was open, but the first floor was my grandmother's house. Mm-hmm. And so she had, and I'm trying to remember, she had her bedroom. I don't remember if she had an extra bedroom. I think she did, but she had a bedroom, a living room, you know, the kitchen, bathroom, things like that. And then upstairs is where we lived. And I know there were two bedrooms upstairs because it was my mother's and father's room, and then our room, and then a bathroom, and then a living room. Mm-hmm. And then there were some other rooms for whatever. And the house was off the street. So you had to walk up this walkway. It was my favorite memory. It was one of my favorite memories.
Where was it, Aleta?
It was in Boston.
Okay, got it.
It was in Boston, in an area that if we had that house now, it would have been, I wouldn't have never sold that house.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I would have never sold that house. But anyway, she bought that house and the city took it from her for eminent domain.
No way.
Yes. So she fought it and they decided they were going to take it anyway. They said they were going to put, I forget what they were going to actually put there because it was a lot of land. Mm-hmm. And so they took it from her and she had to buy another house. My grandmother was very upset and actually got ill from that.
So stressful for her.
It was very stressful for her. And, as a woman, in
Yes.
those days, I'm trying to think. So when I moved, I was 10 years old. So that would be 1964.
Okay.
1964 is when we had to move. And so there was a lot of things going on at that time.
Yes, there
Lots
were.
and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of things going on at that time. And so she felt that they just wanted to take her property.
Mm-hmm, of course.
And, but she couldn't fight it. And so they bought the house from her for nothing, nothing.
Gosh.
And she ended up buying another house. You know what they put there? A basketball court.
Where your grandmother's house was that she had to move from, they had her move so they could put up a basketball court.
They put a basketball court there. They never did anything, and then they finally put a basketball court.
Wow.
That's sickening.
So I think that had a lot to do with the fact that she was a woman and Black.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that was one of the main reasons why that was taken from her. But there wasn't much that we could do. So she ended up buying another house. And that's the house that I actually sold maybe the first year of COVID. I sold that house.
Really? Wow. So that house was in your family for quite a while.
Yeah. So my grandmother passed away. My mother had it. And then during the time, my mother, she got remarried, but she put the house in my brother's and my name. And my mother and my grandmother were very astute.
Yep.
And they did things that I don't see women even doing nowadays. She put the house in my brother's and my name and then became a life tenant. So we could never kick her out.
Mm-hmm.
But the house was in our name so that it wouldn't go to anybody else. She wanted it to stay in our family.
Yeah.
Smart lady.
Very smart. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's basically what happened. And I know I didn't see, because even when I began real estate in 1988, there were a lot of women that weren't even on the deed.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you've been in real estate for how many years now?
Since 1988.
Okay. Whew, quite a
1988.
while. I'm sure you've seen a lot.
Yeah.
We were, joking half-heartedly a little bit the other day that women were spinsters when they were on a document if they were not married. And we hated that name. And it's, I think, since been changed to an unmarried woman, whereas men were considered bachelors, which sounds like 007 or something like that. So, so tell us, give us some insights as to women and real estate. I mean, the amazing experience you've had with your grandma and your mom and what happened to them, but how astute, as you said, your mom and your grandma were. And you said, there are women that are not even doing things today that they could do. So what are some of your insights on that you could share?
Well, my first insight truthfully happened to me when I was in the car, because I was a general manager in a car business. And that was when the first time that I started seeing things with women, because I was also the finance manager. So I would see the financing and people would come in and buy cars, husband and wives, they would buy cars. It normally was in the husband's name.
Right.
And if he died and they couldn't pay, it would be taken away from them. And people, I would see women fraught because, they didn't know what to do. And so that was my first beginnings of seeing that a little bit. And then in real estate, that happened a lot.
Right.
There were a lot of people that weren't on deeds. I made it a point when I was working with a couple, if they were married, that to make sure that every woman that I at least brought it up and said, hey, look, even if the husband was the person that the loan was in, I made it a point of saying, well, the wife needs to be added to the deed so that both of them would have say so as to what is being done with that home. A lot of women did not know that.
Yeah. And so is it just because they just didn't know? They were just following protocol, doing what they were told to do, didn't ask the question?
I don't think they were told to do that. I don't think they knew.
Right.
I don't think they knew. It's not that, and I don't think that at that time the husband even thought about it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, now there were some that were malicious, I'm sure,
Yeah.
but a lot of people just didn't think about that. And they thought, well, I'm married. That's my, my husband, and he's on the loan. Everything's going to be okay, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And that happens even with the divorce in a property. Just because your divorce says you get the house, there's so many problems that, because divorce court does not, the lender doesn't recognize divorce court.
Okay.
So yes, you might have the house, but if the loan is in his name, there's a whole lot more steps that you have to do, because either you're going to have to sell the house or you're going to have to buy his share.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, oh, I'm giving you this house, you know? And so a lot of women don't understand that. You know, they do now, much more now.
Mm-hmm.
It's much better now. But in 1988, yeah, I still saw a lot of things that women were not aware of, for sure.
So just on this one little piece, what's your advice here on this piece around women being on the loan / the deed? What advice do you give women?
They need to be on that deed, period. They need to be on that deed. Most of the women that I see nowadays they're on the deed because they asked me, and they asked the attorney when they close,
Yeah.
about that. So I don't have to remind people that often now. But I'd say from probably 88 to about 2000, I probably did.
Wow.
I had to remind women about that.
Mm-hmm. And so now we see a lot more women coming into real estate, A, because they can, B, because we learned that it's a great investment opportunity and a great way for our money to grow. Do you see anything different about when women are purchasing homes that they end up paying more than men do on these different negotiations? Or is it, pretty even around the board?
In this market now, it's around the board.
It's a wild
Everybody's
market
paying.
right now.
Yeah. For the last 5 years or so, no, I don't see anybody charging women extra because they're a woman, or negotiating with them different because they're a woman. Because at the end of the day, it's been a seller's market for quite a while. They don't care if you're a woman or a man. It's who's going to give me the most money, period.
Right. That's fair.
And so it's really who's going to give me the most money. So I don't see that as much nowadays. I mean, probably back in the day, I would say so, because it was a new thing for women to purchase homes. And so they were a little afraid of negotiate. It was not something, the norm for them. Whereas with a man, it might be the norm for them to negotiate. But then again, there were a lot of women that were, it's like shopping, when you go to the grocery and you try to negotiate, they were like that too. I had some that were pretty feisty. So I would say that I don't see that as much now as I did back when I first got into the real estate business. They negotiate pretty good. Now, I will say that if somebody sees, gets your offer, I don't know what they're thinking when they see the offer and they see that it's a woman. I couldn't tell you.
Of course.
And the real estate agent isn't going to tell you either. When I was the listing agent, I've never had anybody negotiate different because it was a woman versus a male.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to say that doesn't happen,
Of
and
course.
I would really believe that it happened more in the past than it does now.
Which is great.
I think.
I mean, we don't want to really see that,
There's too many women buying property.
And so have you seen that over your time, what an influx of women are purchasing?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Yes, because women are not getting married right away.
Mm-hmm.
So they're buying property before they get married. They have a property. I see a lot of times when they're getting ready to get married, they're trying to decide, okay, well, we'll sell mine, you'll sell yours, and then we'll get a new one, things like that. So most definitely there's more women buying property. There's more women heads of household now. So yes, the majority of my clients are women. I mean, I get couples. I don't get single men that often. Single men coming to buy a property from me anyway, but I get a lot of single women, and then I get a lot of married couples.
Yeah, it's no longer, you live in your parents' house until you get married and then you live in his house or, whatever that setup was.
Well, it's starting up back again a little bit.
It's getting expensive out there.
Yeah, it's getting expensive. I've seen families buy a house, so that everybody could have a place. Yeah, it's getting rough out here right now. I don't know how it is where you are, but this market here since 1988, I've never seen anything like this.
Wow, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you have some history. You've seen a lot go on, and was there ever a time, Aleta, where you were like, all of a sudden you saw more women purchasing houses and you saw kind of a trajectory in that way? Or was it somewhat gradual that you saw women really purchasing more houses and being more independent?
When we came into the 2000s, that's when I started to see the women more so. Before, I think I had more couples, married couples. But in 2000 and up, I've just seen, it's just been crazy, how many women have bought homes. Whether it's a little condo, a little house, just something that, and, so proud that they were able to do this. And I was proud. I mean, I think I really did more to assist women because I am one. I remember the first house that I bought here. When I moved here in 1983. I moved here in 1983. I didn't have a job. I was divorced or getting a divorce. My daughter was 3 years old. I bought a house in 1983.
Yeah, girl.
Good for you.
I bought a house in it. I was blessed that I was working for a man that felt it was in the car industry. And he felt that women were, how's the word I'm trying to think of the word that he used, but an untapped resource.
Yes, they are.
And so that's how I became finance manager. That's how I became general manager. He had another woman he put her through school to get her own dealership.
Wow.
And so he taught us. I was really blessed. And he said, look, if my employees are happy and they're doing well, then my business does well.
Of course.
And so I started working for him. And I think Thanksgiving, I started in February, and Thanksgiving, I bought a house.
Wow.
Nobody up in Boston in my age, my friends had a house at that time, And what happened is I ended up buying, I didn't buy it the regular route. I did an assumption. In those days, you could do that.
Yeah.
So I assumed somebody's loan, and it was a low interest rate, and I paid them. I had saved. I was doing really good in the car business, and I actually had saved some money, and I was able to pay part cash with that, and I bought the house, and that's how I got the house that quick. I was like, wow, and I mean, I even shook myself up.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's one of the most important purchasing decisions in your life.
And so because I knew how it felt when other women were trying to do that, or I would sometimes have, we would have meetings, and we would have how to buy a house, seminars and things like that. And I spoke at a lot of those at that time. And, I'd say, don't be scared. You can do this too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a prime example that you can do this too. You just have to know what you're doing, get your finances in order, things like that. And so I would give them the tools to be able to do that. And yeah, so in 2000, I saw a lot of women
Yeah.
buying houses. And
I
now
love it.
it's just crazy.
So you are an advocate for women and women purchasing real estate, and you saw, like, you felt how proud you were and how it made you feel very probably independent and
Hmm.
self-sufficient and all of
Hmm.
those wonderful things. So what advice would you give women today who are looking to, step out there and make their first purchase?
I've I've always uh, taken it in a business sense. I know a lot of people get very emotional about their purchase, and I'm not an emotional person. If it makes good business sense,
Mm-hmm.
I will do it. I like all the bells and whistles, don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the day, for me, is I want to be sure that I'm buying something that is going to be of value
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and create more value as the years go by. So I always tell people, my clients, that you can be emotional, but I have to watch your back.
That's
Yeah.
pretty funny.
I love
Yeah.
that.
It's nice to
Y-
have a neutral third party
Yeah.
Yeah.
because you need that. You're like, oh, I'm going to raise my family and my kids. It's going to be this house. You're like, no, 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 no.
Yeah. Oh, this house has the ceiling fan and this and has everything that I want, but this might not be the best area for you to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Or this, what you're buying all the bells and whistles and you're spending too much money,
Mm-hmm.
you know, versus, you don't want to be the most expensive house in this community,
Right.
you know. So those are the things that I try to share with my clients, as we're going along. Yes, you want that island and you want this and, because that's what we do. And, home is very important to me too. And it's a place of peace for me.
Sure.
So it's very important for me to have a place that I like and enjoy. But at the same time, I can create that environment
Right.
too, wherever I am. And so, I always try to make sure that, yes, of course, I want you to buy something that you like. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of the market. Is it a good school district? Because
Mm-hmm.
good school district means that you'll get more bang for your dollar.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
might pay more too, but you still get more bang for your dollar. You have to think of some other things other than just the frills in the house. And
Yeah.
so sometimes we tend to do that.
Yeah. Because, like you said, buying a house is an emotional
It's
contract
an
with
emotion.
ourselves.
Yes,
We,
it's
there's a
emotional.
lot that goes on in our home, your house, your home, your family, your community, all of that. It's very emotional. I love that you understand and notice that, but also come to it with a sense of a business focus, a financial focus, because you're just not letting your client run down this path of glory when really you need to look at the brass tacks as well. Let's take a look at what the expenses are, what it's going to cost, what the maintenance is, your neighborhood, all of the things that financially can either hinder you or help you.
One of the things that I learned, and some people might debate me on this, but the housing crisis of 2008, I had to do a short sale on my house. And I had bought a condo. I had been in the condo since 2000. And in 2008, during that time period, my business was going, nobody was buying a house, they
Mm-hmm.
were losing houses left and right. And so that affected my income.
Mm-hmm.
And I had never been late on my mortgage at all. And I talked to them about probably refinancing maybe at a lower, price point. And they said they would not do that. And I said, but you're willing to sell my property to somebody else who hasn't been paying you on time
Right.
You're willing to sell my property to somebody else for like, I think it was $150,000 less than what I
Wow.
paid. And I
Wow.
said, if you sold it to me or refinanced it to me at that, I would be able to stay here and continue to pay you. They would not do that. So I had to sell my house, and I sold it for $150,000 less than what I bought it for.
Oh my goodness.
That taught me a lesson. So my lesson to people is, because a lot of people thought, oh, well, I could refinance and get my equity out of the house. They couldn't even get the equity out of their house at that time. So they had equity in a house that they couldn't, it was a horrendous time to watch. I mean, yeah, I was very angry, a little bitter.
I bet.
But I learned my lesson, and I said, you will never have that kind of control over me again. So I don't put a lot of money in houses. I don't put large sums of money down. I always say you need to have control of your money. If you want to make your payments less, you can take the money that you have over here and pay down your interest not your principal as you go. It's the same thing. But you have control of your money versus them, because I do never want to be in that situation again.
Yeah.
Where you are taking away my equity. A lot of people, that is their money. That's their savings.
Right. Right. Their equity in their home. But if your home value drops.
And my thing is, you need to have your money to the side, because you never know what's going to happen. You might need that money for emergencies. Look what happened with COVID, and if your money you put $50,000, $100,000 down on your house to bring down the payment, you weren't getting that money back.
That's right.
If you went to go do that during the beginning of COVID, a lot of people didn't have jobs. If you don't have a job, you can't get a loan.
Right.
You can't, and so people have to think of those things. You have to prepare yourself so that you are able to withstand whatever is going on in our crazy world.
Yes. Yes.
And I learned that after that, they'll never get me again.
And you learned it a really, really hard way. And everything you're saying has a lot to do with purse strings. It's about really understanding, and you're very astute, just like your mother and your grandmother were very astute around where's the best place to invest my money, or without, oversinking it into a house, but where's my kind of emergency fund? Where's money in case something like COVID happens? What about real estate investment? I had an accountant say to me once, oh, Barb, I have all these doctors who say, come over to my house and look at this, $200,000-$300,000 kitchen I put in with all these bells and whistles. And he looked at him and said, yeah, but you're never going to get the money out of this. And let's take a look at your retirement funds. So even though it feels good at the time and it looks very showy and snazzy, and if you overinvest, you won't get that back from your house.
And it also taught me that I can live differently. There was a time where everybody wanted to have the biggest and baddest house.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. I can live. It taught me that as long as I have my bedroom's nice, my kitchen, because I like to cook.
Yes, you
and
do.
That I have.
I've seen your recipes.
And I have some outdoor space that I can relax and be at peace with. I am so fine. I don't need all those other things anymore. And I learned that during 2008.
Yes.
I learned that. And so I always tell people, I'm not telling you not to go get your house that you want and everything. But some of these things, what is it that you really want? And what is it that you really need? And then purchase.
Right.
If you're not going to be using the space, what is that for? I also talk about with women, with their kids, after their kids are grown. I'm not buying a house for my kids to come back.
No.
I'm I'm not. Why am I spending that kind of money?
Yeah.
Yes, I can have a bedroom, that they can, but they're not paying my mortgage.
Right.
So why am I buying this big house for them to come back at Christmas and Thanksgiving?
Exactly. I'm right there with you, Aleta. I totally am there with you. And like you say, if you have just what you need, a beautiful bedroom, what's important to you, maybe a lovely bathtub, those kind of things that are unique and great, you can just zhuzh it up with all these beautiful things, fresh flowers, lovely candles, great music. It's the ambiance. It's the how you create your home environment. It's not because you have 4 additional bedrooms that no one goes into, right? And because it's the biggest house on the block. Who cares, right? You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. The Joneses aren't paying your mortgage either. So
No, they sure aren't.
Yeah,
And truth be known, the Joneses might not be doing what you think they're doing either.
exactly.
And so they might have a little better deal on their place, and you're trying to
Exactly.
compete with them.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah. And I think it's an important lesson to learn, right? We just have to really make sure we're living within or below our means and comfortably in a way that makes us happy and comfy and safe. But we don't need to overextend ourselves in the market because the market, like you've seen over your years, have been a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Now I don't even know what to tell you about this market.
All bets are
And
off.
all bets are off. I've seen, here's an example. We have an internet for the agents within our agency can talk within each other. So recently there was a house that sold in Suwanee. It's a suburb of Atlanta. The house was $500,000. Nothing special. I mean, a brick front. I think it was brick front, or maybe 3 sides brick, whichever, but nothing special. $500,000. They got 166 offers on that house.
Oh my gosh. How do you even have time to sort through all those offers?
They got 166 offers on that house. And with the 166 offers on the house, they got one offer that was $300,000 over list price. And they accepted an offer. They didn't take that offer. They accepted a cash offer for $200,000 and they over list price. And that's who buys a house $200,000 over list price?
Wow.
With cash. Doesn't make sense because it's not going to appraise for it. So they're going to have to bring money to the table.
Well, no, it didn't appraise for it. So I guess they figure, well, we're going to be living there from whatever. But when I looked at the house, I'm trying to say, okay, if it was something special, maybe I could see that. When I tell you this house was not special.
Yeah.
Sorry for whoever's listening in the house.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I just that's what we're seeing. 166 offers.
Yeah, crazy. Well, it's a wild time to be in the real estate business.
Yes. I don't like it right now.
It's
not good for the average person is having a hard time buying a house because what's happening is investors are buying and they're the ones that have the cash. And so they are buying up everything, I mean, every once in a while, obviously our buyers are getting something, but they are having to come up with money over the asking price and things like that. So it's rough. It's rough.
Wow.
Yeah. So this has been, I feel like we could just chat with you all day long. This is such an interesting conversation. So we really appreciate your time. Maggie, you want to bring us home?
Yeah. Well, I always like to ask before we finish up, do you have any extra parting thoughts that are on your mind before our listeners today?
Well, just if you're buying property, if you're a woman buying property, do your homework. It's not just an emotional purchase. Do your homework. Hopefully you find an agent that is your ally and that will assist you, help you with finding good financing and things like that, because that's the first thing. And that's the very first thing is the financing. And then we'll help you understand what the market is like, where you are, and what you need to do. Because it's just that's important. You have to have the knowledge. You need the knowledge to be able to purchase a property.
Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. So with that, Aleta, we are so thankful that you came on our podcast today. We really appreciate it. For those who don't know, Aleta is also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you could check her out on our site, pursestrings.co. So she's all over social media as well. So what's the best place for them to find you on social media?
So on Instagram, it's at Your Model Agent. At Facebook, it's at Your Model Real Estate. Because people got some of the things, And Twitter's at Your Model Agent as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a great time, and we'll talk to everyone next episode. So talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much, Aleta.
Take care.
Bye.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.